Hi. So a regular day for me tasting wine looks like something between 20 and 60 bottles a day, 2 to 4 days a week. Now that might sound like not very much to some of you and like quite a lot to others, but I can tell you it's a bit of a logistical nightmare when it comes to getting rid of the bottles. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I do with my favourite wines that I taste every week, what I do with all of the rest of the wines, and who benefits the most from being my neighbour. If you're new here, my name's Erin Larkin. I'm a wine critic. I review wines from Australia and New Zealand, and I write principally for the Robert Parker Wine Advocate. This is my YouTube channel where I get to discuss all of the things that I love, that I find interesting, and kind of geek out a bit, and I'm going to take you along for the ride. At the moment, I'm working on a report for Robert Parker Wine Advocate on Margaret River, Chardonnay and Cabernet. Within that report, I'm bringing in wines from around Western Australia, Great Southern, Geograph, and not Swan Valley, because I have another report coming up for them very soon. But what I'm really trying to dive deep into is Cabernet Sauvignon clones and vineyard sites in Margaret River, and Chardonnay clones and vineyard sites in Margaret River. And within that, there's a whole bevy of excitement and diversity. Now, I'm looking, as I said, at sort of between 20 and 60 wines a day. This week's been a big week. I've had 3 days in a row of 60 wines per day, which is 180 bottles to get rid of just this week. That might sound like real pleasure for some of you, but actually it's really kind of challenging, because if you consider taking 12 bottles as one household, it's a lot of wine to get through in just 1 week. So I give the bottles to my neighbours, to the kindy parents at school, to family, to anyone that comes to the house, posties, delivery guys, couriers, etc. If you come to my house, I usually ask you on your way out the door, have you got some wine? Do you want some? Because I can't deal with all of the bottles, the glass, and the boxes. I'm looking down below the camera just here. It's just full of wine. This camera's kind of wedged into a wall of wine. There's just too much. So that's what I do with 90% or 95% of the bottles that I taste. The other bottles, what do I do with them? I've got here in front of me 7 wines that really excited me this week for one reason or another. And what I do is I keep them and I taste them over the coming week or 2 weeks. They're all gas, so I can have them for as long as I like, really, within sort of 2-3 week time period. And I watch those wines evolve. So let me show you what I've got. In the first glass, we've got the 2022 Dormelona Clayface Chardonnay. Now, I've kept this wine because this is one of the very, very few Chardonnays in Margaret River that is fully fermented and matured in amphora. What that means is we get a very, very different expression of Margaret River Chardonnay in the glass. Sans oak, you get this really lovely mineral, ashy, sandy, limestone sort of quality to the tannins, and the fruit is really precise and tight, and you kind of get inflections of lemongrass, white tea, black tea. It's sort of really exotic and sort of spicy and coastal. It's got this beautiful coastal sort of spray about it. So I really want to see how this wine opens up over the weekend. We're going away this weekend. I'm taking these wines with me. This will be a really, really nice thing to start with tonight, I think. It's a beautiful wine. I've liked it for a long time. I've used it for wine and food pairing exercises. It's really rare. She only made 550 bottles this year. But just a really beautiful and different expression of Margaret River Chardonnay. Moving into the second glass, this is a long-time favourite for me. This is a 2021 Xanadu Reserve Chardonnay. I love this wine, I always do. It's really austere, right? It's really, really austere. And 2021 was a cool to moderate vintage with quite a bit of rain around in patches throughout the season. And the Chardonnays have been really glassy and sleek and sophisticated. The good ones have. And so I kept this because I had the 21 Stevens Road and the Reserve side by side, and I generally cannot remember which one I prefer. But as it turns out, I prefer the Stevens Road Cabernet and the Reserve Chardonnay over their partners. And here I was really kind of shocked at the svelte, creamy crushed nut sort of character in this wine. It's really composed and good. Yeah, really impressed by it, and I just thought it'd be a really nice thing to look at as the week wears on. An interesting comment about these 2 wines is they're so different in terms of the way that they're made and the way that they taste. And I love that diversity. It's exciting. And I think that Margaret River really could do, I mean, in my opinion, the best Chardonnay fruit resource in the country comes from Margaret River. There are a few exceptions outside, but really en masse, they come from Margaret River. But the winemaking is really, really quite, there's a lot of the same type of winemaking in the region. So when I look at a wine that is different and has different expression and different character and different kind of feel, I love that. I get very excited about it. But equally, I'm a classicist and I do like things to be done in a certain way. So I also love this style as well. Moving into the third wine, this is the Flowstone Queen of the Earth. Now, Stuart Pearm, the winemaker, sent me a vertical of these to look at for this report, which I was really excited about. And 2020 was my favourite. It's a warm vintage in Margaret River, hot actually, very, very early start for picking and an early finish as well. And the wines have been really like reds, tannic, plush, firm, whites, like lots of fruit and kind of rich, you know. But for me, this wine has been picked at the right time. The oak feels really integrated already. It can feel a little rambunctious on release in earlier wines. So I was really glad to see it look like this. And it's just a gorgeous wine. It's really quite low quantity, makes very little of it, but it's a beautiful wine and it ages really well, looking at the 11, the 14, the 18 and the 20 yesterday. Moving outside of Margaret River, and I did say that I caught up different wines from different regions. This is from Franklin River, from Franklin Estate. This is my favourite Cabernet Franc in Australia. I think I said Western Australia, but can't recall another in Australia that I like more than this. It is made in like a really fresh, crunchy, spicy, floral way. It reminds me very much of a Chinon Cab Franc that I used to buy, which was really quite cheap. It was sort of, I guess, after all of the taxes and imports and whatever, it was maybe $50 a bottle. But I used to love that wine. It was juicy and fresh and aromatic and bright, and that's what this is. This is $39. It's organic, as you can see on the label. And it's just a ripping little wine. It's fresh, it's got tannins. Love tannin. I love tannin. It's got beautiful kind of fine tannins in the mouth, but lots of structure, really pleasurable. I love drinking this wine. It's refreshing. Red wine isn't always refreshing. It can be like quite big and satisfying, but not always refreshing. This is refreshing and awesome. And I love it. Moving back into Margaret River, we have one of the stalwart producers of the region, Pierrot. And this is the vintage reserve wine. So the Estate Chardonnay and the Cabernet Merlot, Cabernet Franc, are beautiful wines and have been made for really a long time at the estate. But the vintage reserve wines have only been made since the mid-2000s, 2011, 12, that kind of time. Don't quote me, it's in that period. And the wines are a cut above in terms of intensity, depth, length, concentration, and pleasure, really. And so I had this yesterday, and it's just got the most beautiful tannins. I can't even overstate that to you. It's like velvet in the mouth, which is saying something for Cabernet, because Cabernet is like, Cabernet without tannins is a person without purpose. And we've discussed this before here. Cabernet needs really good, strong, firm tannins for it to be true to its typicity, right? That's what Cabernet does. But the best Cabernets take hold of the tannins that they have, and they're really kind of marbled into the fruit. And here, the fruit is not encased by the shell of tannin. It's really like plume, like blood in the water through the fruit. Super elegant. It's like chewy. There's plenty of like ductile kind of shape in the mouth. Really exciting wine, and I just think really pleasurable. I really loved drinking that, and I look forward to drinking that this week, seeing how that opens up. But beautifully red fruited and refreshing my memory. It's 2018, like great vintage in Margaret River. I know there are dissenters among you, people that will say, no, I preferred the cooler 19. Okay, I love 19 as well. But the 18s are so powerful and just graceful and kind of balanced. They're just so exciting, these wines. So anyway, this is a really exceptional wine. I loved drinking it. I loved writing about it. And I'm looking forward to looking at it again this week. Moving into the sixth wine is the 2020 Stella Bella Luminosa Cabernet Sauvignon. So the Luminosa Cabernet Sauvignon vineyard is tucked into the Budgetup Valley. If you know where Narrawarry Road is, it kind of intersects Stevens Road with Lewin and Voyager. The Luminosa Vineyard is, as you come down Narrawarry towards Stevens Road, it's in on your left there, kind of tucked in behind those two estates. And it's a beautiful vineyard, really kind of lush and healthy. It's got this verdant sort of character, and the wines do. So I looked at this next to the Suck Fizzle. So the Suck Fizzle Vineyard is down in Carradale, really south, cold, windy, higher rainfall, beautiful but very different wines. So that Cabernet was black fruited. It had kind of graphite and char and tobacco and all of these kind of beguiling, exciting characters. But for me, the beating heart of that wine, of this wine, is red. And I loved that. It's got firmer tannins, it's more muscular, it's more intense, but it's got this beautiful kind of bloody red pomegranate raspberry sort of character that just threads through everything, and it's a real pleasure. I was just really turned on by that. The tannins are more refined here. This has got a firmer casing of tannin, but on the spectrum of firm tannins, these are still really kind of supple and placid without being soft, if that makes sense. They're beautiful. Finally, back in Franklin River, as we were here, Franklin River is an excellent region. Excellent. And Cabernet is one of the stars of the area. Cabernet Malbec, certainly that blend has been made successfully in Franklin River for many years. And the thing that I love about Franklin River is the wines have this incredible ferrous, rust, iodine, ironstone blood character to them. They're really earthy, but really powerful, and the fruit is often really red. They're beautiful, muscular wines, and I believe that as the region evolves and grows and becomes older, and we have more vineyards there with good vine age in them, I really believe that Franklin River is going to be one of the, it already is a great region, but one of the great regions in Australia for premium wine, because it's so specific. The DNA of the region is so specific in the wines, and that's very exciting for someone that's drinking and writing about them, because you taste it and you go, that tastes like Franklin. That's what you want. That tastes like Margaret River. That's what you want. That tastes like Burgundy. That's what you want. That's why we spend money on those wines, because they taste like a place. And Franklin River has got a really defined regional typicity about it, and I love it. So, Cabernet Malbec, C.W. Ferguson from Horton 2020, is really good. It's got like lots of red fruit. Like I said, the Malbec gives it this kind of raspberry peppercorn lift through the back palate. I have found this wine to be really kind of fiercely tannic on release. And don't get me wrong, this is tannic. These wines are supple. This wine is tannic. That's the difference between them. Apart from the fruit characters, the tannins here are really kind of ribbed and muscular, but it's got beautiful fruit. And it's a really, really wonderful statement about the region and about that blend, and I love it. So it was a really cool inclusion into this report. So you can see that as I'm tasting, I'm drinking for my own pleasure as well. I identify both as a drinker and a critic. They're very important things to keep in mind, because I'm tasting thinking, do I love this? Do I want to buy this? Am I cellaring this? Am I drinking this? And I'm personally loving each of these, and I've scored them exactly as they deserve to be. Great wines get good scores. It's exciting. Anyway, drink well. Always remember that if you open a bottle of wine and you don't love it, just move on. Life's too short to take in the alcohol and to waste your time. Find something you love. I've certainly got a few lined up for this weekend and this week. Drink well. Enjoy it.